I like to work the technology in places where others aren't, and develop stories that maybe utilize aspects of technology that aren't being using. I like to go for subjects that people are not recording or developing right now. So whichever way the river is flowing, I like to be swimming in the other direction. After teaching in Tuduli for 3 years, we realized that our kids needed maybe a better high school. You know, even though I was teaching in it, there was only so much you could do, especially in math. You know, I was not a good math teacher, and there didn't seem to be other good math teachers around. And, you know, sometimes in a village, it can become a bit of a prison, you know, for the kids who go through high school there. You know, the challenges are greater anyway. So we were looking for a place to move. And we looked at the NWT. Well, Nunavut had separated, and NWT kind of seemed like Alberta was taken over. It didn't seem like the right kind of environment. But there was Yukon, and Yukon had what appeared to us as an astonishing land claim process that afforded people pride. And for a couple of kids, you know, who were Athapascan, Robert, the oldest, was already growing up and staying in Tuduli. So we decided to move to Yukon. Yukon didn't really need teachers in the city of Whitehorse at the time, so I was forced to go full-time into making films. That involved all sorts of work of different kinds. Anything we could sort of scramble around. It was a very difficult period to make the adjustment to living here. Luckily, I was supplying stock footage for a series called Empire of the Bay. The stock footage they required of me meant just about everything that I'd shot. So we had a little bit of capital that helped finance the move and the first few months of living here. But pretty soon there was a story that developed that actually began with my own kids. It was an athletic program that was still around and we thought had gone a long time ago. And it was the Test. It was run by Father Mouche, who is now in his 80s, and it was a fitness program based around principles of fitness and self-esteem that had worked really well with northern kids, famously well. And so my kids became involved in that. In his 80s, Father Mouche was working very hard to bring it back to the community of Old Crow. That became the subject of a film, working with people like Glenna Frost in Old Crow, who were working with Father Mouche to bring Test and the principles of hard work, good food, and exercise as one of the means of attaining self-esteem. That became a film called Fitness in the Father. In terms of filmmaking and storytelling, with Fitness in the Father, I learned the dangers of working with just one person, where you have a principal subject, where everything depends upon that person. There was a lot of hair tearing with Fitness in the Father to try and tell the story as it should be told. Often the story that you find is not the story that you thought you were going to find. And the story increasingly became more about the challenges of promoting fitness in today's age, where children aren't working as hard as they used to. There's no need for it. But the trapping society that Father Mouche knew in the 50s meant hard work, hauling wood, chopping holes in ice. Every kid was working really, really, really hard. So there's a level of fitness that they've already got. And then if they were skiing or training for skiing, that was just recreation. Now we were in an age where rigorous exercise involved in training at a competitive level for skiing was hard work. Now the program found itself having to sell itself as a program based on hard work rather than recreation. Interesting how societies change. So Fitness in the Father won the Dawson City International Short Film Festival, a very important award called the Mighty, which consists of a perfectly serviceable piece of of cordwood, nicely finished. A spike, which I'm not sure what it's good for, but the wire and the duct tape are to provide you with everything you need to make your next film. There was a reason that I wanted to make Fitness in the Father. It had to do with social change in the North. It was something really needed. After doing Nuhonie, we basically chronicled the problems that arrived in the North in the 50s and 60s. It seemed that it didn't have any solutions. The economy was still shot to hell, you know, in these little isolated communities in the North because trapping never came back and there was nothing really satisfactory to replace it. It was as if a Great Depression existed in the North in these communities since the 1950s. One of the things that Fitness in the Father represented was that, okay, we may not have immediate solutions to what's going on, but we can concentrate on our own kids. We can give them something without a lot of resources that they will build strong people that hopefully in the future will be able to deal with the problems that the North is facing socially.